What we're witnessing this week may seem like a political earthquake, an insurgency made flesh in rosettes and ballot boxes, with Nigel Farage thundering that he's no longer the joke but the juggernaut, and Reform UK now claiming to be the real opposition, and its leader suggesting that a Farage premiership is not only plausible but inevitable. The problem is, in so many activities, particularly in the arts and politics, it's about knowing when to pitch the momentum, when to pitch the final number. The problem is, I think that Reform hasn't calculated for the electoral cycle, and its explosion of success has come too early. It's premature. But let us pause the ticker-tape parade, therefore, and remember this. The noise of today is often the paper towels of regret tomorrow. Farage's glee is unmistakable. His victories in Runcorn and Helsby, in Greater Lincolnshire, Durham and beyond, have sent both Labour and the Conservatives into spasms of panic, but history offers a cold compress for such heat. We should recall the SDP, the Social Democratic Party. In 1983, they were polling over 40%. And the Gang of Four were on the cover of every tabloid, hailing a new centrist realignment. They had momentum, they had money, they had media, and yet, when the electoral fog lifted, they were left with a handful of seats and within a decade swallowed up by the Lib Dems like a fly in a pint of beer. Reform is now flirting with the same fate, the charismatic eruption, with little anchor, with little root. There's no anchors to this. Well, there's plenty of anchors, but there's no substance to the Reform system, and that is the problem. Take away Farage, and there's nothing in Reform. Farage's party is not a party; it's a cult of personality. When he goes, it collapses, as UKIP did, as the Brexit Party did, as Change UK did. Reform without Farage is just a pamphlet with no spine. And while Farage bellows, the Lib Dems do what they do best. They dig in like Japanese knotweed in a civic flower bed. They may be slow, but they are persistent, localized, and impossible to remove once settled in. In Shropshire, in Cambridgeshire, in Oxfordshire, the Lib Dems are making steady, targeted gains, scooping up disillusioned middle-class moderates who would rather vote for a party that fixes potholes than shouts at dinghies. Where Reform brings noise, the Lib Dems bring newsletters, councillors, and occasionally ice cream. Ed Davey may not command the front pages, but his party is quietly rebuilding the centre, ward by ward, and that's real opposition work. Now, to the blue end of the spectrum, where Kemi Badenoch, ostensibly the Conservative leader, has been notable by her absence, while Farage is touring victory rallies, Badenoch is a ghost, unseen, unheard, a modern-day Lord Lucan in a party hemorrhaging councillors faster than a colander leaks soup. It's a little bit like an Edward Lear limerick, going to out at sea, cast adrift in a sieve. George Osborne bluntly said she's not in charge of her party, and that is generous. She's not even in charge of her shadow cabinet's WhatsApp group. She's not in charge of a sentence. The Tories are no longer a serious force under Kemi Badenoch, outside the enclaves of Harrow East, and if Reform is the vulture picking at the carcass, the Lib Dems are quietly stealing the jewellery. So examine the Reform office, sack the woke, scrap diversity offices, plonk no migrants in my country. It's electoral vinegar, powerful in small doses but corrosive over time. You don't want to make a meal of a bottle of vinegar, do you? These slogans do not constitute a platform. They are rage made manifest, and rage unshaped by reason or policy burns bright and then extinguishes itself. Where is their housing plan? Where is their NHS reform blueprint? Where is the education vision beyond bring back grammar schools and make the kids stand up straight? Well, I agree about bringing back grammar schools. Grammar schools give opportunity and academic rigour to people who may otherwise not have that opportunity. And don't forget, voters care about their bins. UKIP once had over 370 councillors. Then their bins weren't collected, and voters collected them themselves. They collected their thoughts elsewhere. They voted for other people. Reform's reckoning may come not from grand ideological collapse, but from missed bin days and potholes unfilled. And that's the crux of it. Reform's triumph is built on protest, not programme. A protest vote is not a firework, bright, noisy, and gone in seconds. It's worse than that. A protest vote is a blip. It's a noise which is forgotten, the crack of thunder, and you walk on. And actually, you don't always get wet. This isn't the forging of a new political order, it's the venting of a weary nation. We've seen all this before. The referendum party, the English Democrats, UKIP, even Respect, they all had their moment in the sun, and who remembers them? The politics is a long game, and shouting loudly is not the same as governing wisely. Yes, Nigel Farage has had his week. He's spiked the punch, he's danced on the tables, but the hangover is coming. This isn't the dawn of Farageism, it's the final blaze, a torch in the dark, not a sunrise. As the Lib Dems quietly build and the Conservatives quietly bleed, as Labour regroups and recalibrates, Reform will have to face the cold, the municipal Monday of power. And that is where movements go to die or to mature, and maturity has never been Farage's friend. There is only one story about yesterday's elections, and that story is bleak. That story is about the collapse of the Conservative Party under Kemi Badenoch. That is the story. The Farage stuff is, as I say, not even a firework, not even a damp squib. It's forgotten thunder.